In the world of leadership, we're all taught the same thing, right? Be friendly, be approachable, be likable. But what if that's all a trap? Today, we're digging into a hidden signal, one that shows why the deep-seated desire to be liked might just be the single biggest threat to your actual authority. It's what separates the leaders who truly command respect from those who are just seeking approval.
So let's just start with that question. Think about it for a second. We all kind of operate on this default assumption that being liked is the price of admission for effective leadership. But what if that very human instinct is the thing that's quietly, slowly sabotaging your power?
Okay, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll identify the signal itself, what we're calling the likability trap. Then, we'll map out the pattern behind it through 3 dynamics of power. We'll look at the game and how this plays out in the real world. Then, the cost, the steep price of getting this wrong versus the edge you gain when you get it right. And we'll finish up with the question, which is where we turn the mirror back on you. All right, let's get right into it. The signal, the likability trap. This is all built on a huge, and I mean huge, misunderstanding of how human groups actually decide who's in charge.
You know, the common belief feels so intuitive. Of course, people follow leaders they like. But the hidden signal, the thing that operates beneath the surface, is that the pursuit of being liked is what actually broadcasts weakness. It sends a clear message that your need for social approval is more important than your commitment to the standards, to the mission, and ultimately to your own judgment.
And look, this isn't just a matter of opinion. This is a recurring pattern, and we can actually map it by looking at 3 core dynamics of power that are pretty much always at play anytime people get together to do anything.
Think of these 3 things as a kind of cascade, a chain reaction of weakness. It all starts when you confuse getting approval with earning respect. They are not the same thing. That initial confusion then leads you to avoid necessary conflict, all in the name of keeping the peace. And of course, the only way you can consistently avoid conflict is by having weak or even non-existent boundaries. Basically, you stop saying no.
This really frames the core trade-off you're making. Seeking approval is all about warmth and consensus. It's about avoiding friction. And yeah, it feels good in the short term. But commanding respect, that's about focusing on standards and demanding clarity. It's about confronting reality, especially when it's uncomfortable. You see this pattern across thinkers from Jeffrey Pfeffer to Robert Greene. Warmth is nice, but we instinctively grant real authority to those who uphold a standard. The outcome couldn't be clearer. One path gets you temporary harmony, the other gets you sustainable trust.
This need for approval inevitably leads to that second dynamic, conflict avoidance. When a leader's main goal is to be liked, any disagreement, any pushback feels like a personal threat. They start to mistake the necessary discomfort that comes with growth for actual danger.
The irony is, the best teams absolutely thrive on that tension. Thinkers like Ray Dalio have demonstrated this again and again. They rely on what we can call productive conflict. It is the engine of innovation. It's how you get to the best ideas. So when a leader makes being liked the priority, they effectively shut that engine down. They're signaling that group harmony is more important than the best outcome, and in that moment, they surrender their authority.
And this brings us to the third, and maybe the most critical, dynamic. It's the tool that leaders use to avoid all that conflict. They just refuse to say no. A leader desperate for approval avoids the word no like the plague, completely missing the fact that this one simple word is one of the most powerful tools they have for building real authority.
See, a boundary isn't a wall, it's a signal. Saying no to a distracting project sends a signal that your team's time and focus are valuable. Saying no to subpar work signals that standards actually matter here. Boundaries work like a filter. They attract people who respect limits, and they tend to repel those who don't. But most importantly, setting boundaries demonstrates to everyone that you trust your own judgment more than you crave their approval.
Okay, so we've mapped out the theory. Now let's get practical. How does this dynamic actually play out in the real world? Where does this game of likability versus authority show up at work? I bet you've seen these before. Here are 3 classic scenarios. First, the founder who just can't bring themselves to fire a friendly but underperforming employee. What are they doing? They're trading the respect of their entire team for the approval of one person. Or how about the manager who says yes to some crazy, impossible deadline just to please the executives? They're setting their own team up for burnout and failure. Then you have the team lead who avoids giving direct, critical feedback because it's awkward. They're choosing their own comfort over their team's performance. In every single case, authority is being sacrificed on the altar of approval.
So, what's the actual price of falling into this trap? I mean, who really loses here? Because it's not just about a little inefficiency. The cost is incredibly steep, and it compounds over time.
The very first casualty? Your standards. They completely collapse. When the main goal is to please everyone, the standard of performance inevitably drops to the lowest common denominator. Excellence becomes impossible, because excellence demands judgment and accountability, two things that are often unpopular in the moment.
And what happens when the standards disappear? Well, your best people leave. Your top performers, your A players. They aren't motivated by being coddled. They're motivated by high standards, by being challenged, by winning. When they look around and see that mediocrity is tolerated and that tough decisions are always avoided, they lose respect. And then they're gone. They'll find an environment that matches their own drive.
And that leads us to the final and ultimate cost. Your authority just evaporates. It's gone. You might still have the title in your email signature, but you have no real influence. Your team knows that decisions are being made based on politics and popularity, not principles and performance. At that point, you're not leading anymore. You're just managing.
But, and this is a big but, for those who understand this signal, the reverse is true. By deliberately choosing to command respect over seeking approval, they gain a powerful and lasting advantage.
So what does this look like? Well, these leaders make the hard calls faster because they aren't paralyzed by what people might think. Their teams become more resilient and operate with way more trust because they're used to clear standards and honest debate. Top talent is actually drawn to this kind of environment, and ultimately, their influence isn't based on something flimsy like charm, it's built on the rock-solid foundation of credibility.
Okay, so this brings us to our final section. We've mapped the signal, we've broken down the pattern, we've seen what's at stake. Now the only thing left to do is turn that map into a mirror.
So I'll leave you with 3 questions to really reflect on. First, where specifically are you trading your authority for someone else's approval right now? Try to picture a real situation. Second, who is actually setting the boundaries in your world? Is it you, or are you letting other people's priorities define them for you? And finally, what's the real, tangible cost when those boundaries aren't there? The answers to these questions will show you exactly where the invisible forces of power are shaping your own authority.